last episode on Vanilla Shores, we started to develop our central downtown. And as you can see, we started to make some really good progress. We've got ourselves our great big centerpiece, kind of the most central and important part of our downtown right now, in this bronze statue, completely beautified in the surrounding areas, right in the middle of our two coastlines either side. On our right over here, right of our divisional line, we have got a beautiful educational district / residential with our elementary, high school and medical university, and left of this division line, as well as our police headquarters, we have a great commercial area starting to develop. When it comes to infrastructure, everything has already started to be placed in, including a great big mail sorting office, a fire station, transformer station, and also, as you can see over here, a TV transmission station. Zooming out a little bit, the other thing to consider is our road network, and we have got a beautiful one-way ring road currently surrounding our central downtown. However, there is one key problem, and that is that our current demand is for low density residential, not for the high density and medium density that we currently are wanting to spawn in to this whole central downtown area, which means we're going to have to be considering a huge overhaul of residential low density construction in the remainder of our downtown area, which is going to be along here. So let's get straight into it, guys. Now, first things first, before we actually get into our development of low density residential to satisfy this demand, we're going to have to start planning where we want a few things to actually go. And what I'm talking about is our rail. And that is because, if you remember in the last episode, guys, we built ourselves a city bus station in the center of our downtown. However, we did not have space in our downtown area to construct a rail terminal. And so that is why we're going to put it in this area here. To be fair, considering this whole area is going to be our downtown, the rail terminal is still going to be pretty central to the whole downtown. It's just not going to be in the actual heart of like the most bustling part of downtown, I suppose. But again, that is not too much of a problem really. Now, what I envision is something kind of crazy. So just stay with me here, guys, and we'll see if it works. What do you think? I personally am actually really happy with this. I never dabble into terraforming really. And so to actually do this on one go, I think I'm actually kind of proud of, to be honest with you. But let me run through this really quickly with you guys as to what's happening. So just like before, we've got this great big road stemming from our kind of central downtown area, this big kind of avenue that goes along here, right, and connects all the way back down to the highway as expected. And this long avenue is also the same road that's going to stretch out in both directions, either side of the railway line, to connect to our two sides of our low density residential areas. However, from something that I learned last time, a few episodes ago, when we were developing this old town, having just one simple road, which was this little highway, follow all the way through this entire area, whilst also servicing all of the connected areas here, turned into an absolute nightmare, because you had people using that small little highway road to connect up to all of these islands here, but also into the areas of this region. And so I have tried to mitigate that by putting in not only this great big main road that comes through here connecting the rest of the suburbs, but also an express route, this highway here, that connects without a single junction, completely sunk in, right to the end over here, which we're going to connect up to our highway connection over here. And as you can see, talking about sunken structures, we've also done the same thing with the railway line here being completely sunk in. Maybe this is going to help with noise pollution as well. I'm not really too sure, but I actually really like what's happened here. Obviously, could it be more pretty? Absolutely. But to be honest with you, considering I haven't really done this before, I'm actually pretty happy with it and how it's turned out. And so I think the next thing for us to do is actually start to figure out what we're going to be doing with the grid zoning in this area. And you know what? I think having a long road that just stretches along here and then getting another one almost kind of symmetrical, I guess you could say to an extent, along here will be a very good start. Now, I've never actually properly kind of used this grid tool here in City Skylines 2. I guess there has to be a first for everything. And so why don't we try to like align as many of these things up as possible? And I guess I'm just going to commit to it and hit build. And this is what we've been left with. It has become a bit of a mess, to be completely honest with you. I think it's because some of these 2-lane roads got downgraded for some reason. So we're just trying to like upgrade them, I suppose, back into this structure here. It's not perfect, but again, roads very rarely are. And I'll be honest with you, these weird like little junctions and kinks and stuff, I think is actually probably quite realistic to an actual suburban area. I mean, at least for this area here where it's not completely aligned, I like that. This thing over here though, I am not a fan of, so I am actually going to slightly change that just like this. And I don't know guys, I mean, like I said to you a sec ago, it's not perfect, it's not meant to be, but I actually kind of like it. Although I do feel like these grids are ever so slightly too big right now as things are. So I'm going to use some alleyways to cut up this suburban area even more. I'm actually going to do this semi-strategically by having a very, very thin grid system, as you can see here, on these first few blocks, which hopefully is going to increase the density of our low density housing, if that makes sense to you, as we are closer to our city center. Over here, I kind of want the density to be ever so slightly higher. I think it kind of will just make a bit more sense visually as well. And then sort of the further out we stretch out, the bigger and the wider these blocks are going to become. I think this is going to do a really nice job for our right side. Let's see if we can try to mirror it on our left. I think this is kind of like our master grid once again is going to work out really, really nicely, with some super thin grids just starting off in this area before we start to become a little bit more relaxed with the width of these grids, allowing some larger houses to be spawned in this area. And once again, I think this has actually worked out really quite nicely. For this area here, I do want to make it very pedestrian and very cycle friendly. And so what we're going to do next is actually make the most of these two elevated sides we have either side of our railway and this kind of express highway on the other side. But first things first, we're going to add some trees in, probably some hickories, because I'm sure you guys know by now, I love the hickories in this game, just to create a bit of a barrier between our pedestrians and cyclists and the road and the railway respectively. And you know what guys, I'm actually really happy with how this has ended up. So we've got ourselves a cycle/pedestrian pathway, both sides, either side of this kind of main artery that we've got over here. They kind of connect over the roundabouts as well, which I think is really cool. And I think this is actually a really nice place for people to go cycling and walking now. It's really super interconnected. The only next thing we have to do is actually connect it well. I mean, to be honest with you, at this point, all the paths are connected, but they're not connected to the actual grids. So how about we get working on that right now? I think we've actually got a really nicely connected and integrated system going on. I am now looking at how we're going to integrate this kind of rail terminus station and the hospital with the rest of our grids as we meet the remainder of our downtown. So let's work on that now. Now for our rail situation, I've actually been able to find a bit of a solution where, as you can see, right next to our terminus station, we've put some very large parking lots that I think are going to come really very much in handy in the long run of this downtown. And that is because right from this terminus station here, we're going to have a bus line that takes us straight to the bus station over here in the central city area. And so this could almost be, as we call in England, a park and ride kind of situation where people drive in here, park up, or rail here, I guess. They don't have to park, and then you can hop on a bus and get right into the heart of the city, or the downtown, I should say, that way. As you can see though, something interesting has happened with the roads, and that is because I have decided to connect up this train station to our express highway. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially considering that this kind of 4-lane two-way road is already going to be super saturated with traffic from these residential areas either side here. And as you can see over here, I've actually built in a bit more grid to develop even more residential. As for the hospital side, let's see if we can figure this out now. And so this is what I've come up with for our hospital side. We've kind of continued the grid all the way down here, and we've also compartmentalized the hospital so that it can only be accessed from this junction here, which I think again makes a lot of sense. And we've also made use of the cul-de-sacs for once, which I'm also super happy about. Now, connecting this kind of suburban area to our downtown, obviously I want all of our people to be using cars that connect to this main road that will eventually then feed into this area. And that is something I fear will be destroyed if we try to actually connect all of these suburban areas by grid onto this road here. And the same can be said on this side over here. And that was my concern until I realized that we could actually be using pedestrian streets. Take a look at this. Only foot traffic is allowed apart from service and delivery vehicles. And so surely we could actually start to get ourselves a few grids that connect up onto this main ring road, still allowing loads and loads of houses and buildings to be constructed along here, continuing with that high density grid-like system, because obviously we're going from high density to medium to lower density. We don't just want a massive gap where our hospital and our train station is before density starts to build up again. We want it to be a gradual thing. And I think these pedestrian streets will probably do the job for what we need right now. I think this pavement we're going to draw right now is probably going to be one of the most important pavements in this entire downtown, because it connects our train station area all the way to our shopping area. So this is probably going to be a super busy alleyway pedestrian path. And I think the next thing we can start working on now is actually spawning in our zones. So let's start from our most, I suppose, sprawled out area. Within these grids here, I want to stick with our North American housing. However, we're going to go for some low density waterfront housing. Very, very nicely spread out, very kind of relaxed, affluent kind of vibes. And I think a 2x2 grid on either side would be fantastic for the time being for our low density waterfront housing. After that, we're just going to go for some standard North American low density housing, and we're going to put that into a 2x3 grid. Stretching into this area here, we're going to go over to our row homes, and that is what we're going to be sticking into all of these small little grids, connecting right up as close as you can get basically to our central downtown. However, we're going to kill the depth a little bit in these areas here, just making sure that we don't have anything kind of like overhanging into the waterways here. You know, zone controlling is very important. It's not always in City Skylines 2 about building in every single place you possibly can. And I'm actually going to go back on exactly what I've done just here and get rid of the medium density row homes, and we're going to go just for some normal medium density housing. And just stay with me on this very, very quickly, guys, because I actually think the medium density housing does have a higher density than the row homes. And so it kind of makes sense that in these grids here, we have a slightly higher density in the form of the medium density housing. This first main great junction here is where you see the transition from medium density housing to medium density row housing, as we then start to spawn in loads and loads of row homes. I suppose maybe Brooklyn style? Would it be like Brooklyn? I mean, that's the place that I always associate with like row homes and stuff. If you think about Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the way the sort of architecture is in that kind of area, I might be completely wrong. If you guys have a better idea as to where row homes are well used, then make sure you leave that in the comments below. And then maybe at this next junction over here, this is then where we say goodbye to the row homes and we start to say hello to some even more low density North American housing. And I think this is actually going to work out really quite nicely. Now, obviously, this is going to be the downtown. This is where we've got our shopping areas. However, it is of critical importance that still within these residential areas, there are a few shops here and there that people can go to buy their necessities. So why don't we, at the end of these blocks here, commit to putting a load of North American low density businesses? Now that I think about it, if this is where our low density business is going to be, why don't we stick some North American high density business into this little square over here as well? I suppose it makes a lot of sense considering this is a downtown, so we might as well put some high density business in there for the eventual development of it quite a while down the line. At each of these junctions, it kind of makes sense to have some business as well. And we won't go crazy with it, but we will put a few shops in these areas just to help our locals with the essentials. And when I say the essentials, no, it's not the shopping, no, it's not the pharmacy, and yes, you are absolutely right, it's going to be the petrol station, which, as you can see over here in our downtown, is greatly in demand, as it always has been in City Skylines 2, and for some reason they have not fixed the blooming problem with nothing being constructed in the commercial areas other than petrol stations. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how they cannot fix that, but this is the way it is. I cannot complain anymore because nothing's going to be done. End of rant. There we go. Wonderful. And as we continue now, I think we should start considering some of the cool services that we're obviously going to be needing in this suburban area now. First thing that I can think of is obviously going to be education. So maybe over here, we can kill this grid here to put in a small elementary school over here. And we'll do the very same over here to put in an elementary school at the end of this connecting road. And then a high school is going to be very, very important for this area. And so why don't we get rid of this small road here, and we can chuck in a high school right along here by the shops. I'm not too concerned about putting another high school in, considering we've got ourselves a city high school over here that I guess the kids could commute to, especially once we get all the bus connections in place. Parks and recreation is going to be very, very important for the people living here. So how about a dog park on this corner and another one on this corner, a small park here and a small park here. How about a playground by the elementary schools respectively? And there's something I want to do park related in this area here, but first things first, we actually have to figure out how this highway is going to connect into this area. And so what I'm going to do firstly is upgrade our highway here because we do want it to be a 4-lane highway. We're going to get the biggest possible roundabout that we can get. And then once again, before we actually do this, I want to actually potentially see if we can upgrade this road to something larger, because I just see this road getting completely filled and saturated, and considering we've got space either side, we might as well see if it's possible. So we're going to go to our road section, we're going to upgrade to large roads, and oh, look at these beautiful big large roads now, 6-lane roads, and then 7-lane roads as well. That is crazy. Let's stick with our, oh my god, they've got an 8-lane road? I guess we could try an 8-lane road. I mean, oh my god, this thing is massive. Maybe not actually, this thing is not going to fit. Maybe we can keep this for our capital city. Guys, at some point later on down there, we're going to get ourselves a humongous, big capital city. Maybe we can save that 8-lane road for then. And instead, we can stick with our slightly more compact 6-lane road. With a lot of blood, sweat and tears, guys, you do not know how long I had to work on this off screen. We have got a fully functioning, or soon to be fully functioning, 3-lane in each direction road, 6-lane total, going through to the heart of our downtown, which I think is actually going to work out really nicely in the end now. All we have to do now to finish off is just connect up the 6-lane road, marry up our express highway like this, and I guess the rail line can kind of just go in that direction eventually anyway, so that's fine. Oh, and I have an idea now. So once again, bear with me and take a little look at what I create. What do you think? I thought we could get ourselves a little castle at the entrance of our downtown here. I also think it would be a really nice opportunity to have our cycle path pass by something quite beautiful, which is obviously the castle. I always had the intention of marrying up these cycle paths eventually from one side to the other, so that if you wanted to do a bit of a circuit, then you most definitely could. Obviously, what that means now is we're going to have to like shift and rotate all of these along, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I think it's really nice having this kind of cycle ring road coming along here, heading eventually now into our downtown. I think that is actually a really nice thing to have. And so I might have done this completely wrong. I might have completely forgotten something. I probably have. However, as things are now, I think we could probably hit play and see how things spawn in, how traffic starts to function with these crazy road networks we now have here. And yeah, just see what happens. Things are most definitely starting to spawn in, which is exactly what we want. Let's just take a look and see if they are missing anything. It seems like power, water, sewage is all good for them right now. Some of them are slightly concerned about the flooding, which, to be honest with you, considering they're literally building into the water, I'm not too surprised about. But look at that. That demand has just dropped right down. Whilst everything's spawning in, we're just going to finish off this episode by adding in a few final little bits and pieces that are going to be very important for our city. The first thing is going to be crime prevention. We are going to need to have some kind of police station in this residential area. And I think in this kind of commercial zone here, it will make a lot of sense to have it within. Obviously, although it's just on this side, it will be able to get onto this other side very easily. And as you can see, those police cars have just distributed in all sorts of directions, which is fantastic. And once we actually engage our police headquarters, this place will be completely covered with high police coverage, which is exactly what we want. Secondly, fire coverage. Well, we've obviously got our small little firehouse here within our services division. However, I do think we could probably do with a fire station within the city itself. And so why don't we go for the city firehouse? Where do you guys think would be a really good place to have it? I personally think right here on this main road here would actually be a really sensible place to stick our firehouse. And so we're going to put it right there. And I think that is going to cover this entire area really nicely now. Now, going back to this area here, I know I said to you guys that I had something planned. And so let's get onto that right now. Obviously, this downtown area is going to be high density. There's not really going to be much space for parks and sports and stuff, but the further out you go, the more space and opportunities there are going to be. And so what I envision us having over here is a sports park of some kind. I'm personally thinking a football field, we can stick it right here at an angle like this, and then just connect it up to the rest of our grid. And I think this actually looks really, really nice at the entrance of our city. It's also super, super important. And so maybe we build ourselves a small cemetery, and maybe this cemetery can have a few more burial lots along the way, considering, like I just said a sec ago, we haven't actually built any recently. And I think we've already got people waiting for hearses. They should be distributing them very soon, any second. And maybe around here, behind all the houses, we could also stick a dog activity park. As we start to see our population skyrocket alongside our money, I think we can comfortably and confidently say that we have done a very good job here. Obviously, the traffic is flowing super smoothly. We've actually got a high-density commercial building here already that's making profit, believe it or not. I did not expect that this early on in the series, but look at this great big monstrosity here. I suppose in good time, all that's going to be happening now is we're going to start to see more and more of these residential areas start to spawn and develop in, which I think we're probably going to see next episode. Talking about next episode, now that we've actually created not only our downtown center, but also our downtown suburbs, we're going to have to start considering connectivity. How do we connect our downtown to our other historical town over here? How do we connect our downtown to all of these islands along here? And as well as that, how can we resolve some of the other issues that the rest of our map is currently suffering from, which is lack of hearses and also waste management issues, especially considering we are teetering very near to the grave danger that we are running out of garbage storage. All of that is going to be sorted out in the next episode alongside traffic management, because although along here it is flowing beautifully, if we just shift a little bit further along this highway here, you will see there is nothing but pure gridlock, which we are going to have to try to figure out and sort out in the next episode. So see next episode as a connectivity one for our downtown, but also an episode where we're going to be figuring out how we can sort out all of the other issues that our entire map has accrued over the last few episodes. If you guys enjoy content like this and you want to see some more City Skylines 2 Vanilla Shores content, then make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss out on a brand new video. And if you do enjoy content like this and you want to see more, then make sure you hit a like as well, because it makes a world of difference to the channel and I'll be forever thankful. As always, thank you so very much for watching, guys, and I will see you all again in the next video here in Vanilla Shores very, very soon.